If you ever wondered why your grandparents started looking up at the sky after 1947, here's your answer. That year, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying near Mount Rainier, when he saw 9 shiny objects moving in formation. He described their motion as saucers skipping on water, which the press turned into the catchy term flying saucers. Not long after, out in the deserts of New Mexico, a rancher stumbles upon a field littered with strange debris. Local officials, not wanting to waste a good headline, declared it a flying disc. Then the army showed up, scooped everything up, and quickly changed the story to a weather balloon. To this day, people are still debating whether that was a clumsy cover-up, an overexcited press release, or both. Now, this was the late 1940s. The Cold War was warming up fast, America was flexing its new nuclear muscles, and everyone was a little jumpy. So when more saucers started popping up in local newspapers, the government had to decide: panic, ignore, or investigate. They picked a bit of all three. Enter Project Sign in 1947, the first official attempt to analyze UFO reports. It didn't last long though, as it soon morphed into Project Grudge in 1949, which basically decided most UFO witnesses were seeing weather, birds, planets, or had overactive imaginations. But sightings didn't stop. So in 1952, the Air Force launched Project Blue Book, the longest-running and most famous UFO study. Over nearly 2 decades, they logged over 12,000 reports and concluded in polite Air Force language that most were explainable and none were a threat. And if you ever read the actual files, a surprising number do involve Venus, swamp gas, or the occasional practical joker. In 1953, the CIA got involved too. They formed the Robertson Panel, a team of scientists who reviewed the UFO craze and recommended seriously using trusted media like Disney to calm people down. That's right, the same studio that brought you Bambi was supposed to gently steer Americans away from alien hysteria. Meanwhile, in the Nevada desert, a patch of land was turned into a hush-hush testing ground. Officially, it's where engineers pushed the limits of high-altitude spy planes like the U-2 and the state Route 71 Blackbird. And officially, well, that's Area 51. To this day, it remains the world champion for inspiring alien rumors while also being, quite literally, a very practical place to test stuff you don't want rival nations to know about. Then the 1960s brought a new twist: abductions. In 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were driving through rural New Hampshire when they claimed they were taken aboard a craft by beings with large heads and dark eyes, a description that popularized the now iconic gray alien image. The Hills' story included lost time, hypnosis, and medical exams. Whether you find their account credible or not, it opened a whole new chapter in UFO folklore, close encounters of the personal kind. While this was happening, the CIA was busy with MK-Ultra, a series of covert experiments testing mind control, hypnosis, and the effects of various drugs. It sounds like something from a sci-fi thriller, but it's all on record now. Although there's no direct link to UFOs, it proves that secret experiments on the public were not just possible but real. In 1969, Project Blue Book was shut down with a final statement that no UFO ever investigated posed a security threat, nor did they find evidence of otherworldly visitors. Of course, that didn't stop people from reporting sightings, or suspecting there was more to the story. For example, in 1980, we get the Rendlesham Forest incident in England. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at a British base reported strange lights in the woods and a possible landing. Official reports dismissed it as misinterpreted lighthouse beams, but the story has stuck around for decades as the UK's version of Roswell. Also in 1980, in Texas, 3 people, Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and young Colby Landrum, came across a bright, diamond-shaped craft surrounded by helicopters. They later suffered health issues they believed were linked to the encounter. They tried to sue the US government, but the court found no solid evidence of military involvement. Case closed, officially. In the late 80s, a man named Bob Lazar claimed he worked near Area 51, reverse engineering alien spacecraft. He didn't offer paperwork or pay stubs, but his story captured the public's imagination and still appears on documentaries and podcasts today. Love him or doubt him, his claims added fresh fuel to the Area 51 legend. In 1989 and into the early 90s, Belgium had its own UFO wave. Thousands of witnesses reported seeing large, silent, triangular craft with bright lights. Belgian Air Force F-16s even chased them, without success. The official stance: unexplained, but no threat to national security. Which is the polite way to say, please stop asking. Back in the US, the Air Force revisited Roswell in 1994 and again in 1997, releasing new explanations. This time, they described the debris as part of Project Mogul, a classified program using high-altitude balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests. As for the rumored bodies, they suggested people confused the timeline with crash test dummies used in parachute experiments. Naturally, these explanations didn't satisfy everyone. In 2004, Navy pilots flying from the USS Nimitz encountered what's now famously called the Tic Tac, a small, white object with flight characteristics that defied conventional technology. The videos and radar data stayed under wraps until a New York Times article in 2017 made them public. By then, it turned out the Pentagon had quietly funded the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program from 2007 to 2012 to study cases like this. In 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released an unclassified report summarizing 144 military encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. Only one was fully explained. The rest remain, well, unidentified. The report didn't confirm aliens but did say these incidents were real and worth further study. Congress got back into the mix in 2022 with the first open hearings on UFOs in half a century. Pentagon officials testified about updated protocols and new reporting channels. To handle these reports, they created the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO for short. In 2023, a former intelligence official, David Grush, told Congress that the U.S. has secretly recovered non-human materials and possibly biological remains. He didn't present physical proof, but his testimony revived public and media interest. Throughout 2023 and into 2024, there were multiple interceptions of unidentified objects over U.S. and Canadian airspace. Some turned out to be hobby balloons or weather devices, but the incidents reignited debates over how these objects enter secure airspace undetected. Today, documentaries, live conferences, and new whistleblower protections keep the topic alive. Titles like The Age of Disclosure draw large audiences, and annual gatherings attract former military officers, researchers, and curious citizens who want to hear the latest updates, or the same old secrets in a new package. All over roughly the span of 8 decades. So, now that you've got the history straight, here's where my own brain started putting these puzzle pieces together. And fair warning, this next part isn't carved on any government stone tablet, it's just my own connecting the dots moment after looking at decades of official statements, sudden retractions, convenient new explanations, and some very interesting timing. Over and over, what I noticed is that this whole alien storyline fits perfectly with real, down-to-earth government priorities, developing new tech in secret, keeping the public calm or at least distracted, and covering up operations they don't want to put in the New York Times. Think about it. It costs $0 for the Air Force to let rumors swirl about UFOs if it means nobody's asking tricky questions about next-generation stealth drones or black-budget prototypes flying test runs over Utah. In fact, sometimes it's downright helpful. If people are looking for aliens, they're not pointing radar dishes at the next top-secret spy plane. And this isn't just ancient Cold War stuff either. Every era has its version. The U-2 in the 50s, the SR-71 in the 60s, stealth triangles in the 80s, drones in the 2000s, hypersonic tests and surveillance airships today. These things do exist. You can look up the declassified specs if you're curious. Meanwhile, the official UFO reports keep the public in this perfect limbo. Well, we can't say it's aliens, but we can't say it's not aliens either. Just enough mystery to keep podcasts busy, convention tickets sold, and social media feeds buzzing. And then there's the timing. It's hard not to notice that UFO flaps, leaks, and surprise disclosures often show up when there's something else the public might otherwise be angry about. A scandal, a war dragging on too long, or some new expensive military program that needs quiet funding. Maybe that's coincidence. Or maybe it's a tried and true magician's trick. Look over here, ignore the man behind the curtain. Even the more bizarre parts, like alien abductions, make a strange kind of sense if you remember how much governments have actually experimented on their own citizens. MK Ultra proved that powerful institutions absolutely tested mind control, drugs, hypnosis, sometimes without permission. So is it impossible to imagine a few other tests slipping under the radar, later repackaged by pop culture as an alien encounter? It's uncomfortable, but not impossible. And all the while, Hollywood keeps reinforcing the same images: the saucer crash, the secret hangar, the little gray figure. It's almost a modern myth we keep telling ourselves, generation after generation, and it conveniently explains any weird thing you see in the sky without pointing fingers at very human, very classified tech projects. So here's my take, in plain English. I do think there's life out there in the universe. It'd be arrogant to think we're the only ones. But if something truly advanced ever dropped by Earth, they probably wouldn't crash every few years like bad teenage drivers. They wouldn't show up on blurry radar and then politely disappear when our jets arrive. They'd be so far ahead of us, we might not even notice them at all. In my eyes, the everyday alien visitation story we keep hearing about, crashes, recoveries, abductions, works better as a human-made smokescreen than a cosmic mystery. It's a distraction, a cover story, and a convenient release valve for questions the government doesn't want to answer fully. But, and this is a big but, this is just my own theory, stitched together from the same facts anyone can find if they dig through declassified documents and connect the dots themselves. I don't expect everyone to agree. I don't claim I have the final truth. It's just one possible angle on a very old, very resilient myth. So take it like you'd take any story on the internet, with a grain of salt, a dash of curiosity, and a healthy dose of skepticism toward both the official story and my version too. Stay curious, double-check everything, and maybe look at the headlines a little differently next time a new UFO video hits the news. And if we really do get first contact tomorrow, well, at least we'll have a pretty good library of sci-fi movies to binge while we wait to get beamed up.